Welcome to episode 8 of the Frenemies podcast. We got the doctor in the house today. Ooh. We got him as a special guest. Tim James, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. A little round of applause. Thanks for making the special appearance.
So happy to be here.
Yeah.
I'm happy to have you next.
He's extremely happy to have you here.
Not nervous at all.
We had a different seating arrangement, but you had to go sit by him. He said, no, I got my buddy next to me.
I'm just trying to keep him accountable.
Yeah. I mean, truth be told, I'm on probation.
Well, let's talk about that accountability thing, because I got something about this trade alert. Sean, do you want to talk about the trade that went down
Yeah,
today?
I'll give you the details, and then Chris has got story time over here.
I'm going to go on my
Friendship may have
soapbox.
ended. So, yeah, huge trade alert here. We have Mike Evans. I think he was a third-round pick for David. Mm-hmm. So he traded away Mike Evans to Phil and got in return TJ Yeldon and Carlos Hyde.
Wow.
So, I guess just diving right into the analysis of it, my initial thought was Phil
Good
just
job.
won the Super Bowl.
Well done.
Like, he's now, like we thought before about having his 3 wide receivers again, this is legit. I mean, 3 top 10 wide receivers. You know, he's got Diggs, now he's got Evans, and of course Antonio Brown. So I think that's just if these running backs were a little more substantial and they didn't have expiration dates, I think that's the biggest issue with them. Mm-hmm. Chubb could take over for Hyde, and Yeldon's only got till Fournette comes back, which I think is going to be a long time. Mm-hmm. But I think Mike Evans is a locked-in top 10 with a huge.
Well, and the other upside with TJ Yeldon right now is obviously that Corey Grant went out with a foot injury, so he's done for the season. And I do think they're going to be super conservative with Leonard Fournette coming back. So I think TJ Yeldon gets a huge boost. He's going to get a huge quantity of carries and targets, and I think he's going to be solid for longer in the season than we typically anticipate.
Especially with the W's that are rolling right now. Well, they lost to the Chiefs, but they can still conservatively. Conservative approach on offense because that defense is so good.
He won't be game scripted out of it. So whether they're up or down, he's going to get the targets. He'll get the shares. So.
Ryan, did you have any thoughts on this trade?
I don't understand it. I don't understand what David was thinking.
Well, I can tell you what David wasn't thinking. He wasn't thinking right.
So what's going on?
Quick story time. 4:50 this morning, I wake up. I didn't wake up. David did. He texts me, hey, I see you got a plethora of running backs. In the morning. Yeah, I wake up at my time, and I look over, and I got a text from David, which, never happens.
Oh, he doesn't have young kids.
Yeah, he doesn't have young kids waking him up. So I was looking at it, I was like, okay, I'll get a little trade. So he had his receivers. I asked for, Sony Michel was who he wanted. I offered him one-for-one trade, Devontae Adams, knowing that, Reverend David's pretty smart. He'll probably counter. So I was like, okay, then maybe the Mike Evans thing. So I was working that route, but then I was talking to Phil, who was looking at the whole roster at work today, because that's what we do at Norfolk Christian. We don't teach. We just
all three
work
of you
on
guys
our
work
fantasy
together.
football.
Yep.
So I was like, buddy, hey, what are you looking at? And we was talking about how he's looking at trades, and I was like, you got to look at David. And I went advice mode, like I was on the podcast, not knowing that I was
Chris might learn a lesson.
I learned a lesson, because I was like,
keep your mouth shut.
You got a lot of running backs. You're looking for receiver. He's got it. I got a trade over here. Just be honest. If you want to look at that, be fine. I don't know why, but I found the true definition of frenemies to help with a podcast. Because as soon as David or Phil and I were talking about, we both turned our backs and we were slamming David with text messages, offering him trades. We both went and visited him. We both thought one went and saw David earlier
visited him in
during
his
class.
office.
We were supposed to both walk up. And then someone asked me to help them with something. So I turned around and go back to the office. I'm knocking on Phil's bathroom. And I was like, Phil, you there? Phil, oh, no, he just left before me. And then Phil left early because he's like, Chris? And he's thinking, oh, snap, Chris beat me up there. And I'm walking up, and Phil and David are chatting it up like good old friends. I'm sitting there. They got a little piece of paper folding little offers to each other. I felt like the odd man out. Like, I'm like the one trying to ask a girl to the homecoming dance. And I'm like, oh, you're going with him, are you? It's like, okay. I'm just standing there at the dance floor. I brought you to the dance, but now you're living with this person. That's what David did. So friendship over.
May or may not have
Christmas
had that
card,
happen.
not in the mail. That's it. All right, I'm good. I have to cool off.
Yeah. All right.
That's a long one.
I just don't get. So David's a smart guy.
I guess he was freaking out, I think, off of losing Jay Ajayi, and he's just not got a lot of running back.
That seems like an overcorrection to me. To be
I don't know.
What do you think?
Looking at it, the running backs are going to get high volume, and I think that's something that David really valued. So I can understand it from his perspective. I think he's pretty high on Tyler Boyd, and I think that's one reason that he was comfortable enough moving in that direction. He's got Devontae Adams. He's got Robert Woods.
He didn't believe in Aaron Jones as much, which I thought. I mean, I guess he had 7 carries last week, but
Right. And then, Royce Freeman obviously hasn't panned out. So
Yeah.
I understand it from his perspective. He gets a little bit of running back depth. He loses, obviously, a wide receiver 1, which is always hard to part with. But I think what he gets back in return is high-quality reps and high-quality carries.
I don't think he gets that. I think he gets 2 guys that are destined to be like
Sure,
RB
it's not a
20s.
long-term option. If he didn't value him as a keeper, then, he was looking for a quick-time replacement.
It's easy to look at their names and, undervalue them because right now, I was talking with him about it, they're RB1s. There's one's RB8, which is TJ Yeldon, and then Hyde's at 12. So, I mean, they're doing it this year.
All right, that's what I needed to
They
hear.
do have an expiration date. I think that's a valid point, but I think his viewpoint is this season. I don't think he's looking beyond that. I think he's trying to make a run for it.
You got to steal wins when you can.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get the wins that you can and get yourself in the playoff position.
All right.
Yep.
All right.
All right. So, Sean, you're up next.
Apparently, I'm just going to do this every week.
We need cue music.
Yeah, so this is more of a encouragement towards other people in other leagues, and also just a question of when do you give up on the season?
Yeah.
Because it's real easy at this point now. I've only won 1 game, and I'm five games out from the. Thanks, David, for the extra wins a week. That's hurting. But
Hurt a little extra.
to get into that playoff spot now, it's going to be difficult. It just looks daunting. It's at some point you're going to want to give up. I don't think that's yet. I think
That's
that
true.
maybe 2-3 weeks. That's something I would start looking at. But it's so easy to turn it around in fantasy football. You got players that just start off weak and then come back strong in the second half. Like Keenan Allen last year, I almost made the playoffs last year because of him. I held on to him and just stuck with it, and then he became a top 5 wide receiver in the last 8 games. So just stick with it. Stick with it.
And if you're you had a great draft, and I still think that those guys are going to come out eventually.
Hopefully.
Fantasy's a hard
Crazy.
game to be patient in.
Yeah,
It's
very.
really
Especially when you're
challenging
losing.
to hold on to those players that you think are worth it. And I think sometimes it's worth it. I mean,
Yeah.
there's players I like. Jordan Howard's one guy that I value for the second half of the season.
Yeah,
more
you're
than the
hanging
first
on
half.
tight there, buddy.
Yeah, I didn't want to part necessarily
Played
with
a
him.
long game on that one.
I
Yeah,
have tried
so
to
he has
get
not
him.
been great to start the season, but he hasn't been that bad either. But I think as the season goes on, it gets later, more bad weather games, that sort of thing. I think there's value in certain players, and then them being more valuable towards the end of the season.
Yeah, it's true. I agree with that.
All right, and then my next segment
kickers
here is,
thing.
so kickers, they suck, and I'm just going to say this every week, and I'm going to continue to try to get people on my team. David, I'm calling you out. -1 from your kicker. Next year, vote for no kickers. This is coming up.
Oh,
I've got my
gosh.
opposition over here, which I'm sure we'll have a
he's
nice
the
debate
only
with.
one getting double digit from his kickers.
I don't understand.
Man,
it.
there's a method to this.
There's
All
no
right, well,
method.
first of all, there's no
Feels.
method. Definitely no method.
Yeah. The fields.
But second of
method?
all, it's a unique. Well, we can talk about this a little bit though. Is the uniqueness of the kicker position as the NFL as a whole, apart from fantasy, is how bad are the kickers? Chris Boswell, the Steelers kicker, he's missed a field goal every single game, whether it's an extra point or a field goal. And I think the percentage of made field goals this year as a whole is down.
Yeah.
Which I think is really interesting. So beyond the fantasy perspective, I think that's really
But there
interesting.
there is a method though, bro.
I think they should be out of
Here's
the
the
NFL.
thing.
I think
You
they should be out of our
You find
league.
that kicker
Yeah, right,
whose
Mason
quarterback. You find that kicker whose quarterback can't make it all the way down the field, but gets
That's
close.
so risky, though. You know what's that's
That's
gonna
what I
happen
do,
is
though. I mean,
I'm
it
gonna put in.
works.
I'm gonna get the Dolphins kicker next week because we can never get down the field, and then we're gonna
Well, he has
score
to be a
0
good
points.
kicker too. There's that. But if you find a kicker whose quarterback can't really get down the field, and there's a defense that's competent, that's what you go for with a kicker.
Well, that's why Matt Ryan was so good last year because the Falcons struggled in the red zone; they couldn't put it in, so he made a lot of field goals. I mean,
Listen to me bragging.
you're not wrong.
Listen to me bragging after 2 weeks of good kicking.
I know.
I just can't wait till you get a negative kicker, and then
All right, so we just heard this. But let's go to overall thoughts. This segment is brought to you by Deep Thoughts by Reverend David. If you ever need to get a little moment in, just want to ponder your day, contact Reverend David for deeper thoughts. But let's talk overall thoughts in this week. Sean, let's go.
yeah. So I just had a realization. This is not really that groundbreaking, but
It is.
It's really hit me the last few seasons here that you have to have that boom player. Like you're not going to win a week. Last week I played David and I think I had one player under 10 points, which traditionally if that's the case, I'm feeling pretty good about my chances. I scored 80 points because I had nobody over 20. And if you don't have that happen, you're just not going to win the week. You need that player. It's become more and more because there's at least 15 to 20 of them in every league now that are going to just boom into that 30 points. And if you don't have one of those, it's pretty likely that you're opponent does, and
So
you're going to lose.
when you look at a boom player, you're defining it, you're looking at 20-plus points or
I'm
based
talking
off position.
Probably 25 plus, unless you're
25 plus.
quarterback. But
Yeah.
like
Okay.
if you get even in the, you can even get it in the defense, as we talked about. It's been so negative based now that if you get a 15-point game from your Bears defense, that'll win you the week. I mean, that's a 20-point swing for the guy who's you're playing gets -5. So
We're basically talking about Phil's whole lineup plus a new boom player. He just got a Mike
exactly.
Evans.
I'm saying don't be afraid to trade for those players or to start those players that just have the potential to be boom because
I think it's important to kind of mix that in with having your quality base players, the ones that are with a good floor, but then sprinkling in those little boom.
Like
cannons.
Tyreek Hill is somebody I look at as a perfect example. I wouldn't have drafted him because I'm so scared of his consistency, but he's a winner. If he goes off that week, that's how I lost week 1 to Joe. He went off, and there's nothing I could do about it.
Yeah, so that's why I kept Todd Gurley ever since I drafted him because
I
he
know,
is that boom guy.
He's a boomer bust. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, every other year, remember that?
Boom or really high floor.
Those first 4 years, it was up, down, up, down. Now he's like all the way up. I'm like, yes,
Thank you,
holding
Sean
on to
McVay.
him. Yes, thank you, Sean McVay. All right, so my overall thought, I'm going to keep it simple and quick because we all think this. Ryan is the luckiest dude ever. He's the only guy ever.
We had some
almost
notes added here.
I'm like reading my words. He's trying to add in cuss words for me. Yes. But, he's the only guy that's getting double-digit kicker and defense in the same week, and I lose like 20 points to him because everyone else in the league got single-digit on defense or a kicker, never double digits at the same time, but this dude, and I lose. I'm like, no way.
It's funny how when you play Ryan at the end of that week, you say, he's the luckiest fantasy player ever.
And then, look at me coming up this next week, 3 running backs down, wide receiver down.
Already starting the assassination.
Pretty odd timing.
Listen, I understand the frustration with my ability to just take out your good players. I don't understand it fully myself.
You did it to Andy. I mean...
It's not looking good. I mean, Adrian Peterson dislocated his shoulder.
Yeah.
I just feel like you've
but
gone
the
a line.
core of my team is
all about Fields.
It's not luck. There was a trade that allowed me to get Melvin Gordon, and there was a trade that allowed me to get Le'Veon Bell.
That's true.
And I drafted Connor. So I'm just saying, there's not much credit, but a little.
I
deserve
a little more credit your way.
Yeah.
So
just to back this up here, no surprise. Guess who's least points against? 469 points. Mr. Man of the People over there.
By a significant margin, am I right?
Yeah, by 30 points. Yeah. And Joe has had 637 points scored against him.
It's like
poor Joe.
Yeah,
so
poor Joe.
Nobody's arguing about the core of your team, but what we are saying is nobody's had a good week against you, and something's fishy.
Yeah,
he's fourth in points.
That's fair. Something is fishy.
Oh man,
it's
All right. So,
later, I'll defend Ryan a little. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the freakout moment. All right, the time where we thought, like, what in the world is going on in the fantasy world? I love the first one. I just keep tossing up to Sean because it's just so funny how he begins these segments. What's your freakout moment?
What is going on with Julio? Ooh. I don't know what. Julio. I considered trading him this week because it was very disheartening to look at 0 points for like 2 hours of the game. Yeah. I just was freaking out here. I don't understand when you have a player like Julio Jones why you don't throw him the ball almost every play. So it was definitely a freak out for me that Julio, not only he's not getting the touchdowns, which has been kind of his MO lately, but now he didn't even get the targets. Like he didn't even get the receptions. He had 0 until like middle of the third quarter. He got up to 8 points, but it's still like this is the guy that I banked my season on in the first round. I'm going to need some more out of Julio.
In your defense, though, you didn't want him.
It's true.
Remember?
It was what I was left with. I would have definitely rather taken.
Was DeAndre Hopkins still on the board? And
no, he wasn't.
No, okay.
I didn't have a choice.
That's
what I can take heart in is that I didn't have a choice. I couldn't have gotten Odell or Hopkins. It was what I was left with.
Was
I'm going to say Michael Thomas.
I would have never picked Michael Thomas over Julio. That's crazy.
No, and most people wouldn't.
No, most people.
I can't. No, I cannot. Okay. I can't say that I would have.
Yeah.
All right. So Chris, what's your freak out?
Mine's about the Eagles players. We just heard Ajayi's out. All right, wide receivers. Like I was watching the game because obviously they're playing my Vikings. And, like Alshon Jeffrey finally showed up in the third quarter. Had like 2 catches. Wentz is under pressure all day, and then Ertz is the only stud they got. But you can't really depend on an Eagles player right now.
Yeah.
Just because their offense looks like in total disarray.
Yeah, they do. They're not getting the ball out super quick. They're struggling to look, towards the receivers and get consistent, quality catches out of them.
Yeah, and that line is hurting them too, because Wentz can't even get the ball out well enough to allow receivers to really open up.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of my freak out moments. Ryan, I think yours stays the same every week. But
do this. This is why I was hesitant about the podcast thing, but Le'Veon's a bad situation for me now that he's coming back.
But you should trade with him.
Yeah, you should trade with me, but don't.
Don't
trade with me.
It's really a bad situation for you, not necessarily someone
Correct.
else.
I mean, having James Conner is obviously a huge plus, but then to have James Conner and then to have Le'Veon Bell and then to figure out how to split the difference, I think Phil can relate to that. Having Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara, I think he almost lost. I think he lost his game this week, obviously, because he played Kamara, didn't play Mark Ingram.
No, he won.
Oh, did he win? Okay, sorry. Yeah. But I mean, you're gonna experience the same sort of challenging decision making week by week as who do you want to go with?
So you're legitimately freaked out by Le'Veon?
Yeah, I don't believe I'll be able to trust him or Connor. So I'm basically losing Connor, so I'm predicting a second half of the season real challenge to stay in the top. Yeah, I may drop out of the playoff picture because of that.
So you would advise people that have Le'Veon to find a way to trade him if you
trade
get
his
value.
butt right now.
Yeah.
Patience might pay off, but I'm really siding towards. I believe you should get rid of him for either Fournette, somebody who's going to come back at the same time. Yeah.
The only value is a long-term game of keeper. But you never
I think
know,
that's where you have to.
You never know where he's going to go.
Play the trade game.
Yeah.
If he's chasing the money, you don't know what team he's going to be with, how they're going to set him up. That's the risk as well.
I believe the Steelers was the worst case scenario, though.
Yeah.
For him to come back to the Steelers, I could be wrong.
Well, I mean, they love to ride one back. They've never been much of an RBBC. I mean, they've always just kind of, even when Le'Veon Bell was suspended, they had D'Angelo Williams. He was a huge volume back coming in there, and then as soon as Bell came back, D'Angelo Williams was done for the season essentially.
Yep.
Yeah.
Barely touched the ball after that. So
what's your prediction as a Steelers fan, a lifelong Steelers fan, for how they're going to use him?
Yeah, I mean,
we've heard the chatter from sources that.
As a Steelers fan, what I think they should do and what probably happens is very different. What I think they should do is I think they should put as many carries on Le'Veon as they possibly can over the next 8 weeks. Really ride his tires off. I mean, he's planning on leaving anyway. He wants to demonstrate what he can do. I think that benefits your team now. And
do you believe the chatter that there will be a committee?
Honestly, I have a hard time. Because Le'Veon Bell is such a flow kind of fella. He likes to get into a rhythm early. When Steelers get him the ball early and often, they seem to do a lot better than when they try to feed him the ball late. So if he gets in and he gets into a flow, he doesn't like coming off the field. I have a hard time seeing both backs being fantasy relevant.
Wow. Okay.
Yep. Right before we go to the next segment, I predict one thing. He comes back for a game, injures himself, so he doesn't have to pay. He's on there. He's not losing any money. Then he rides off to free agency.
Yeah, I mean, that James Harrison told him that's what he
conspiracy.
should do.
That's 2 weeks in a row. Conspiracy theory for you. I believe.
I don't think he benefits from that in the long picture though, because I think the Steelers for one have argued about his reliability, him being there. He's only played one complete season for the Steelers. He's been hurt. He's been suspended. He wants to finish the season strong, I think. So I don't think he personally will do that. But
he's got to get the money.
Yep. That's what he cares about. So.
All right, we're going to look at the waiver wire now. We're going to go streamers coming through. We're starting off with quarterbacks. I'll start off with my pick, Andrew Luck, just because I believe he'll be throwing 50-plus balls for the rest of the season. I mean, their best running back, who Andy picked up last week, is basically a receiver. So you're getting some good receiving volume from any of his pass catchers. And I think Luck, if you're hurting for a quarterback through the weeks of picking up for bye weeks, he'll be a great person to pick up. Usually a starter back before his injury. Going in.
I think he'll only get better as the season goes on, too. So we'll see.
Tim, who'd you have?
I have Jameis Winston coming off a bye playing the Falcons. I'm not normally high on Jameis Winston at all. But coming off a bye and against that defense, I mean, you saw what Pittsburgh did pretty easily, it looked like. The middle of that defense of the Falcons, their middle linebackers gone, their safety's gone. I think Jameis Winston and Cameron Brate have a field day with that. So that's kind of my pick.
Cameron Brate. Sean, who you got?
So I have Russell Wilson. This is kind of you're going to have to take a risk here. He's been pretty bad lately. But I kind of think they're turning it around a little bit in Seattle. The offensive line's gotten a little better, and they're playing Oakland, which the biggest issue with Russell Wilson has just been under pressure all day long. And Oakland's just got no pass rush because they don't have Khalil Mack anymore.
yeah.
So they could use that guy.
The one that-
So
yeah.
I just think he's got a real good chance to, and he's somebody that you could pick up. He could explode, and then you might have a starter for the rest of the season here. So
And Seattle's another one of those teams that kind of starts slow, picks
Yep.
up towards the end of the season. So wouldn't be surprised for them to figure that out. That
and
offensive
we got
line.
the hot take over here from Ryan Meckes. Let's hear it.
hot take.
Well, Trubisky's going against the Dolphins, and I think the Dolphins are getting on their bad stretch of the season. So I would take advantage of
Spoken
that.
from a true Dolphins fan there.
Can I ask you though? Like you said that Andrew Luck is only going to get better, like, and you're a medical professional. Like, do you actually?
Is he back?
Is he back?
Well, I mean, from what I believe that the Colts believe he's back.
They must if he's throwing 50
Exactly.
times.
That So him coming out the last play of the game, I don't know what that was, week 2 to have Jacoby Brissett
Yeah,
throw the
that
deep
freaked
ball.
everyone out.
I was a little suspect on that, and I think a lot of people were. But at the same time, why risk it? I mean, it takes one bad throw like that where you're trying to throw it as far as you can, and then you kind of get that re-injury. So I understand the
He's
risk.
had a few Hail Marys since then too. So
Has he? Yeah. So.
You think he's back or getting back? Or
Yeah, and I think
Okay.
it takes time to get back. He was out of football for a year, and so to come back and get the timing right with receivers, and it looks different when you have people in your face trying to hit
Yeah.
you.
So you think that his slow start? I mean, I guess he hasn't been crazy fast out the gate. You think that's more attributed to like rust?
Oh, for
rather
sure.
than-
Yeah,
okay.
coming back after a year out of the sport,
Okay.
it takes a while to get back into the
Okay.
speed of the game, I think. And I think he'll continue to get better as the season goes on.
Yeah.
Pick up Luck.
Yeah, there we go. Let's go to running backs now. Sean, who's your streamer pick off the waivers?
So this might be a little more than a streamer. I guess we'll get into Burrito's injury later, but I think Alfred Morris has got potential here for not just this week, but probably a couple. If he's got a high ankle sprain, that's something that's going to put him out at least a month, I would guess. Like I said, Tim will get into it, but for Alfred Morris, at the second half of that game when he went out, he got a lot of work, and he even got passing work. So if he's going to actually catch a couple balls, and then he's going to be his normal Alfred Morris self, then I think
10
you
points a
want a
game.
running back. Yeah, I would say that it's a safe.
In our
Yeah, good
half
forward.
point PPR format,
Yeah.
probably 10 points a game.
Yeah, but
No receptions,
if you can
really.
get a Shanahan running back, that's a good thing. Like that's why
Okay.
I mean Breed is nothing special.
Right.
And he
But-
benefits from a zone scheme. I'm not really sure what San Francisco's running, but
It's a zone
Shanahan
Yeah.
you normally likes that zone scheme, and that was what he ran when he was in Washington.
That's what I was gonna say. Back with the Redskins, that's
He's not running for great yards per carry, but I mean he's getting the volume, and I think especially with Breida out, he becomes a 3-down back.
and he's one of those. The more he picks up steam, and I think it's better. If he's
Yeah.
pounding
All
the
honesty,
guy.
when we start looking at the flex later in the year, you're looking for the volume guys.
Yeah.
Well, once we get our draft picks up there and they start falling apart when we're hitting the waiver wire and we're trying to find a flex guy, especially in the middle of the year, we want volume guys, and he's definitely that.
Yeah, this is the week I think that you can really actually pick up some running backs and wide receivers that you can put in your lineup right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. I went with Wendell Smallwood. He's probably only a limited time between Clement and Sproles coming back. He might be giving carries away, but right now the Jai out for the season. Sproles, just because of old age, his hamstring seems like the longest thing for him to recover from. And then, Clement, he was kind of in and out. They're still kind of easing him. So, but Smallwood, he's pretty impressive when you see him run. That guy's fast.
Of the backs they have left, I thought he was the most complete. He's
Yeah.
going to be the ground and pound guy to file, but he obviously can catch the ball out of the backfield.
So maybe they use him a little more and just go one back. So I think it's worth the risk because he's still going to get all the touches. Definitely worth a flex look.
It's a good offensive line too. So if they get it, if he gets the work,
Yeah.
I was big on not Corey Clement. Yeah, Corey Clement coming
Clement,
out. Yeah, so out of last year, I thought he finished the season strong. He's another one that I kind of viewed as kind of on the waiver wire pickup. One of the two. Smallwood, I think, has a slight edge just because he's going to touch the ball more on running plays. And I think Corey Clement is hurt a little bit by Darren Sproles. I think they kind of have a
They're
similar
same.
role
Yeah.
in the offense. So as long as Darren Sproles is out for a little bit, I think Corey Clement will benefit from that.
Okay.
So I obviously like that one, but Buck Allen is my guy. He's out touching Alex Collins every week nowadays. He's getting more red zone looks, I think.
Morgan dropped him.
Morgan dropped him, so I mean he's available, and I think he'll continue to be a preferred option there. And
Yeah, it's always confusing.
He's
between
getting the
those
goal
two
line,
guys.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's so weird because Collins is like way bigger than him.
Yep.
It doesn't make any
But
sense.
I think it's probably the
I
fumble.
still like
issue.
Alex
the
Collins
fumble.
more, but I think it's
Yeah.
Buck Allen is the way to go.
Yeah, Collins is way better of a runner, I think, as a running back. Ryan, who'd you have for the running back waiver wire streamer?
This is more of like a wait and see type of thing, but I think Alfred Blue is worth a stash right now because Miller isn't doing anything. And
well, I mean, Miller's banged up too, so
yeah. But he had a good week 1. I think he had some like 130 yards and a touchdown or 2. But after that, it just went down and down and down, and then he got hurt, and now it's looking like I don't know. Alfred Blue could have like stolen his job honestly last week, or at least made it a committee. So I think he's worth a stash, and we'll see what happens. I wouldn't necessarily start him with Miller coming back, but wait and see. So.
All right, so let's go to the wide receivers. I'm going to start this one and then go straight over to Tim for what he wrote here. But I'm going to say Robbie Anderson is the boomer bust wide receiver that if you're just looking at the wire and you're like, I need to fill a wide receiver spot, he's worth the pick because he basically gets 1 catch a game and it might be a touchdown. And Darnold finally threw the ball deep.
I know.
Captain Check down there was like, hey, I'm just going to toss it up to you. And I mean, it wasn't like a fumbled catch. I mean, Robbie Anderson, and he got right underneath it, looked smooth all the way. But it is the risk. Is he somebody you want to keep on your starting lineup? Like every week? No. Maybe you keep him in there and play him when you can. But I picked Robbie Anderson. Tim, what would you say?
So I went the other way. Anunwa was out on Sunday, and I think Robbie Anderson benefited from that.
Yeah.
But looking at the target share from the weeks that Anunwa is playing, he's getting nearly 30% of targets. Then when he's in the red zone, it jumps up to 43%. So, I mean, just looking at the volume that he's getting, he obviously is a preferred target. I don't think Robbie Anderson's a bad pickup by any measure, but I think if Anun was playing, I think he's the preferred option.
He is Sam Darnold's favorite. Are you going to talk about Anuno's injury later on?
Yeah, I will.
Okay, so we'll touch on that one because some people are looking at it waiting to see what to do with that wide receiver. Sean, who'd you have?
All right, so in wide receiver, somebody needs to pick up Sterling Shepard. I don't understand how this guy stayed on the waiver wire. These are his last 3 weeks, 17 points, 20 points, 9.5 last week. So he's getting a lot of work, and I think it's a lot to do with Evan Ingram. So it may be a little late to pick him up because Evan Ingram's potentially coming back in the next week or 2 here. But he's kind of developed that, wide receiver 2 on that team. And as long as Evan Ingram's out, he's just going to get targets galore. So pick him up. You can start him. Like I can see him being a great flex option.
Might have to get on my phone after this. Pick him up. Ryan, your man. Didn't you already have him?
He did. This is kind of he had. I didn't have Sterling. Actually, no, I did. I had Sterling Shepard.
Yeah. I had Calvin Ridley.
He had a noon one.
And I had a noon one.
And now Ryan, this is your guy that you did have.
Well, it's just because he's on my radar screen, but because I have Jimmy Graham, and I'll try not to start 2 starters on.
That's why I haven't picked up Sterling Shepard.
Yeah.
So Geronimo Allison he's very good. He's a flash player. He makes a lot of impact. I believe whenever he sees the field, he was out this past week, but I believe he should be rostered, and I think he has just as much talent as Devontae Adams. As far as rapport, Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, it feels like it takes a long time for receivers to really gain his trust.
Yeah.
But Geronimo Allison absolutely needs to be rostered.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if Aaron Rodgers is throwing you the ball and you're his wide receiver too, you need to be on a team.
And yeah, he could easily post wide receiver. This is a little bold, but I believe he could be posting wide receiver 1 numbers by the end of the year. So
if he steals that job from Cobb and I guess just Cobb would be only ahead of him. So
yeah. So all right, let's look at tight ends. If you got a good one, keep them. That's my advice on the waiver.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
If you don't have a good one, I think you should trade for one because that's really your only option.
Yeah,
they're bad on the waiver
nothing
wire.
on the waivers until an injury happens to your tight end. Then
it would have been great in this spot, but I think David was ahead of the game there and took Braid or somebody picked him up. So, but yeah, there's not really any good options here.
Not right now. Defense streamers, all about the matchups as usual.
Or the Bears.
Yeah. Sit on the Bears. Keep them. Don't cut them like Tim did. Because that's how.
I cut them.
You got
dumb.
But Green Bay against San Francisco. Green Bay is an improving defense. So that might be one of the options. And then Falcons against Tampa. I'm not sure. Some people are saying Winston, start Winston because he's going against a porous Atlanta defense.
Head to head here.
Yeah.
He's opposing his Winston view.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at how the Falcons played the Steelers, I'm not saying the teams, the Tampa Bay and the Pittsburgh are similar, but I think, Pittsburgh owned the middle of the field all day with a running game, and I don't see the Falcons. I think it was Grady Jarrett for the Falcons was out against the Steelers. I don't know what his. I didn't look up his injury to see if he'd be back this week, but he makes a big difference for that defense. And when he's in there, he helps get pressure. So I would maybe put a little asterisk next to your little Falcons recommendation if Grady Jarrett plays.
This is one of those crazy gut things. I could be totally wrong, but I think
you just see a lot of interceptions.
I see interceptions. I think this at any point the Falcons offense has the ability to take over a game and just run through a team, and I think that this could be the week. So this isn't a smart decision. This is a gut decision, and I already have a defense, so I'm not paying a price for.
And apparently Ryan's gut is really good.
Yeah, he really has no guts. So I don't know how you can do that. Just only big fellas only. Their guts true.
All right, so Chris, who's the shoulda, coulda, woulda here?
All right, well, this segment is brought to you by Auto Draft Lumber. New name, but we all know him. What was once known as the Denver Stumps or Stumpy. Get your lumber from Auto Draft Lumber. Andy, I'm calling you out here, man, on this shoulda, coulda, woulda. Aaron Rodgers on the bench. That's like fantasy 101.
Well, I mean, especially when you pay such a high price for the guy.
Yeah, you paid a high price. I mean, okay, Jared Goff. He was coming off a phenomenal week there before, but I'm like, I just look at it. When Rodgers is healthy, I don't care what defense he goes against, he's going to get you consistently great points. And then Goff, he's still a young guy learning. It's hard to say, 2020 hindsight, okay, obviously shouldn't have done it. But when it's Aaron Rodgers, why? Why even play around with the waiver wire and get a quarterback?
Yeah, I don't know that I roster a second quarterback there.
No, I would bench him, pick a guy up, cut that guy the next week, put Rodgers back in after the bye. That to me was like a fantasy 101.
Or trade him. I mean, somebody will take him.
Yeah, so
he's one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, he's a GOAT.
Yeah,
and that's coming from a Viking fan. He's phenomenal.
Yeah.
All right, he's right up there with Breeze. Breeze is breaking the records. Brady's phenomenal, but the Rodgers just a phenomenal.
Write it out, bro.
He makes guys like Geronimo Allison stand out. So
he is a talented man.
Okay, Andy, I just got to preface it, man. I didn't mean to come down so harsh, Johnny, but Aaron Rodgers on the bench. All right, next segment. But I'm still feeling the love. All right, didn't want to come down with the rain of lightning of thunder on you, but shaking my head. Let's go to something that's still making my head shake. Game of the week, me against Ryan. I went all the way to the end. I was hoping for a 20-point kicker.
They would have just
on
been
Monday
fantastic
night.
if the kicker beat Ryan.
The kicker whisperer gets beat by a kicker here. But it was a clash of the unbeatens, and the luck continues, Tim. It is your duty now.
I mean, looking at it doesn't look great.
It is your job now to take him down.
Yeah, I think the one thing is we might just have to stop saying he's lucky. I mean, he's 6-0 or 5-0 over here.
Maybe.
I mean, he does look like a leprechaun, so it might be luck of the Irish there. Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, he's the biggest. I think the biggest thing was James. It's definitely James Conner. The move to draft him higher to make sure that he got him was.
Honestly, that was the biggest fault I had with this team. I don't know if you guys remember me calling in. I think it was like week 1 or week 2. I frowned upon drafting the handcuffs so high in the pick. I thought he left it kind of short-ended, but really, I mean, that's proven to kind of save his season so far. He's really turned things around. Just obviously, what do I know? So,
yeah. Well, you better know this.
I owned it at least.
There we go.
Owned it.
No, I've had definitely a lot of luck though. So I appreciate the kind words, but I definitely don't know what the heck is going on. I feel like. When you win, you want to know that your opponent had his actual players on the field.
Yeah.
And that hasn't been happening lately, so we'll see what happens.
As long as Saquon plays, I have no reason to lose. So.
All right, so we're going to go right into the pickup line. All right. So this is for you, Ryan, and for you, Morgan, I think our only single guys going to the league. So here we go. Here's a pickup line that you need to use next time you're on the scene.
Listen,
you
classes
walk up
section.
and say, do I know you? They go look at you all pulses because you look a lot like my next girlfriend. Boom. You're ready to go. She's laughing. You're laughing. Everything's good. And you're picturing a nice white picket fence, 2 kids, a dog. You got it.
Definitely
future set.
Dog for me, bro.
But you got to do it.
Shotgun.
There we go. But when you say that line, man, do I know you? You got to really get a puzzled look. Get them and then hit them, you look a lot like my ex-girlfriend.
What if you already know the girl though? What would you say?
Don't use that line. It's just
they might question your intelligence.
Know your turf there.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, the girls that you do know obviously are not dating you, so I just move on to a stranger. All right, let's go.
So the pickup line segment is somebody that got picked up last week that was a great pickup. And here we go, Andy. We'll give you some love here. Picking up Naheem Hines. You paid up for him, but I think he's going to legitimately get the work. I mean, how many receptions did he have last week? I mean, he's going to be used a lot. And in that offense is just going to pass the ball nonstop. You're going to want the passing down back, not the.
And it's hard to pick up a running back out of the backfield because that's usually a linebacker marking them. And Hines is a super fast kid out of NC State. So Hines. So it's really good for that passing game. I know I just fall for it. I just it's kind of like the dad with the kids. Like, oh, okay.
Eventually you just
I'll just ignore it. All right, but I think phenomenal pickup there because he brings a new value to that running back position. What was his point total last few weeks?
Yeah, so he had 23 the big week before he got picked up, and then he had 12.5 in a game that they were losing, which I think they might be losing a lot of games with that defense. So he's going to get a lot of receptions, and we're in a PPR league now, so that's what you want.
Yeah.
Where are we?
Another reason why to push for that full point in PPR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Points everywhere. You get a point. That's the Oprah thing.
That makes all backs a little bit more competitive.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Just a plug for next year.
So, write that down.
Shamelessly.
All right, so now we got the player this week you should start on your bench. This is our expert opinion. Sean, who do you think needs some advice about bringing someone up off the bench?
So I was going to do Carlos Hyde, but no longer is he on Phil's bench. He's now in David's starting lineup. So I'm going to pivot to I think Ryan is starting him, but this is maybe for people that aren't in our league. John Brown has been a lot better than people think. And I think he should be in starting lineups. So if you got John Brown, I'm giving you the confidence. Put him in. He's
wide receiver 2 weekly starter.
Yeah, he's been playing well. I mean, Ryan can speak to how he's been playing on his team. It's been a pickup that has really helped him. I think he is what helped beat me. Last week he had 19 points. The week he played me 2 weeks ago against Pittsburgh, and he's not been under but 8 points the whole entire season. So.
He gets the targets, and he gets those like really coveted long bombs, and sometimes a few.
Which apparently Joe Flacco learned how to do again. So.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because he's got a guy they drafted on his heels, so he's got to prove himself to keep the job or get a new contract elsewhere.
All right, Chris, you're going to land Andy again
simply
here?
Aaron Rodgers, start Aaron Rodgers. Start Aaron Rodgers.
Ryan?
And then Austin Eckler has proven to be a very dependable, at least flex option. So it was always kind of weird. I drafted Gordon and Eckler, and I actually played them both for a few weeks, and it worked out. And Eckler has, I think, the lowest week he's gotten in our 0.5 point PPR is, I believe, 6.8, something like that, fantasy points. So Eckler deserves weekly flex consideration at least. So I would start him.
Yep.
If you have him. If you have
to my surprise, I would have never thought we'd be saying Austin Eckler's the flex option.
Eckler, the backup that gets a lot of PT. All right, so let's move on to our yearbook superlatives. Every week, you guys kind of listen to our fantasy advice, but you want to hear the comedy that we bring in somewhere. So we're bringing it back. We try to be funny.
Some more than others. But,
so some more than others. But let's go with our yearbook superlatives, guys. Everyone in the league, we got something on you. We're going to use it. It's going to be funny. If you get mad, blame Ryan. All right, so.
Mostly a Tim segment here. We're going to let him. Yes. He kind of went in and added his little 2 cents on all these. So
yes, he did. I'm going to start it off, and the guys will come here because I wrote this for Phil, big man Phil here. I put down as your superlative the homecoming queen runner-up. You're the one that's always thinking, I'm going to win it. And then when they put the final count, you were not the homecoming queen, but you're always on the court.
It's always a surprise upset, too.
Always there. It's like,
the most popular girl in the school that just never makes it.
You're just not there. Mean Girls all the way is Phil. All right, so, Tim, what is Sean's superlative?
So we had some discussion on this one, but I think we kind of settled down into most likely to succeed. but then just never does.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
just so you know, always look so optimistic. Things are trending up. They look so. Oh man, this is
Perfect
disappointing.
team.
So yeah,
Perfect
most
draft.
likely to succeed, but then just falls a little short.
It's like that-
Shows up to the reunion,
Yep.
you know, and is still working at the same job he was in high school. Yeah.
Yeah, basically. I'm working at the theater still. Get free movies. All right. So,
Nothing against theater workers.
yeah, sorry,
Chris.
Yeah, I think that one through. David, I got one for you. Well, I didn't put this, but it's hilarious. Most likely to impeach the commish and run the league. That is
because
Reverend
David got a side to him
And,
under
like,
that perfect
Well,
face.
and he's got the presidential nature. I mean, you saw him sway even the great Tim James.
James.
I still can't believe it to this day.
You brought him in on the phone, FaceTime, thinking like, "This is my backup." While we're saying no,
It wasn't even my backup. I was like, I'm standing behind Tim. He was in front of me.
And it's
I was
just like-
let
As
me
we
just
could tell,
throw Tim at him.
Ryan was not prepared.
Tim
so.
was on my FaceTime while David Klana was at our rules meeting presenting the worst rule change in our history. And due to his soft and his suave nature,
suave.
yeah, he convinced everybody to go to a half win every time you're in the top 5 scorers in our league.
It's like he can brainwash you. You wouldn't even know.
Yeah,
Or-
and
And I'm the one suffering now that I've
Yeah.
David passed me in the overall rankings.
It's working for David.
With the half
even though he has
away.
2 losses, I only have 1. Somehow he's still beating
somehow
me,
still
so.
going.
But to give a little background for this, this guy is one of the best arguers I know, and he is so true to his convictions. And I was like, you know what? I'm not the best arguer in the world, but I'm going to bring in the big guns, somebody who is. And we were chatting back and forth like, oh, yeah, this rule says stupid. And then, like, I bring him in on FaceTime, and I'm like, getting ready. And then David, pitches his year-long planned-out speech, and then I'm just here sitting with Tim like, haha. And then to my dismay, I hear, oh, that kind of makes sense.
I'm a reasonable person.
And that was the
already
beginning of
to
the
a
end.
point. Yeah.
So, anyways,
All right.
All right, so next we got Chris here.
boom.
He's the biggest flirt, Chris.
Always have been.
So back in last year, I tried to get Todd Gurley,
Yep.
and we were very close to getting this deal done. Michael
off a
Thomas,
down
I think,
year, yeah.
for him,
Yep.
and yeah, just every time he'll listen to you. He loves to
yeah.
listen to you, kind of wine and dine. You make you feel like you're going to be part of this trade.
yeah.
And then once you think you finally got to this trade end, he says, I don't think so. So, biggest flirt over here, especially in the
always
trade
looking
market.
at the trades. And then I flirted a little too much today, and Phil took my homecoming date home.
Yep.
Took it. All right. Does anyone else have to add to that one? I'm just going to end that on Phil. Okay. All right, Daniel, you are most likely to protest any rule change in the league. Completely agree with that, whoever put that in. Thank you so much.
he's
Yeah.
usually right, though.
He's on your
I got to
team.
stick with Daniel on this one.
Yeah, it was like when everyone's got the feels like, oh, this is great, this is great. Then, Daniel's
I
going to
don't
be
know
like,
about that one.
"Ah," and you're like, oh, you ruined the momentum. We were going to do this, a full point PPR.
Yeah, me and Daniel.
We'll get there.
I have like a bond with Daniel I never had before.
Yeah, now you do. Now that he's in Arizona.
And then we got Joe here, the nicest guy in the league
Arguable.
that you always cheer for.
Yeah.
He's also like I feel like he's the man of mystery as well.
He is.
Well, so many of us don't know him.
I'm sorry, like I didn't mean to say you're not nice. I just don't know you, dude. Because nobody knows you. Who the heck knows you?
Chris,
Your wife?
I do.
Chris
Yeah,
knows
a little
him
bit.
well.
I'm probably
Yeah.
the best out of
He's a
all of
nice
us,
guy.
but yeah, super nice dude. Always
Okay.
cheer for him, even when he plays me.
And then Chris, what is Tim's here?
All right, Tim.
We feel like we could have
We
come up
got
with a
back
better
and
one.
forth so many different ways with this one, but I like this one because it happens in our group chat all the time. He is most likely to make Ryan quit the podcast.
It's true. Not many people can bring Ryan down. He usually just kind of
Yeah.
like fights back more the more you
Yeah.
call out his team. Tim
Yes,
takes
sir.
him down, and he's just like, ugh.
Oh man!
Even solid granite can be worn down by water.
Ooh, nice science in your face. It's true. Like he'll come back into like our chat. It's like, I think you guys should just do the podcast. I'm like, dang it, Tim! Tim did it again. We find it hilarious. He's like, oh man, like he could really bring Ryan's mojo down, which is very hard to do.
God.
Just bringing some balance. That's all.
All right, Tim. What's Morgan's here?
So we had a couple for Morgan as well. I think for a lot of these guys, we could have had a couple. But Morgan is most likely to set his lineup and still somehow win a game.
Yes.
Or if you like this one a little bit better, we can do both. But most likely to draft an already injured player lost for the season. So
It happened this year.
happened this year. I believe it happened last year. Even though it wasn't in the league, it probably happened.
Probably did.
Yeah. So I'll say Ryan's. We have him down as a class clown. Most likely to
sir.
think he's funny. But everyone else just wants him to stop.
It's like a lot of like nervous, embarrassing laughs. Like, oh, okay, please stop.
Him trying to convince himself that he's funny.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's that look around, laugh
I'm
around.
funny,
Hi, guys.
bro.
Anyone with me?
Then the last one I have is Andy. So this was a little bit of a contribution from, I think, everybody, but I think I capped it off nicely. So most likely to plot his revenge on the league, only to forget about it, and then have his plan start automatically.
Automatically. Get
Auto
it?
start.
There's some hidden meaning in there.
That was clever. That was my favorite one there.
All right, and then last here, let's get an injury report from Tim. We got him live in person this
All right,
time.
settle in. This list is long.
Yes.
There's a lot of people. Actually, you know what?
Wow.
We're just gonna let you go. If I'll
Just
chime
go.
in if we got
Counter
any
in if you
questions.
guys have
but just,
anything.
just power through.
All right, so Leonard Fournette last week re-injured himself, obviously back to where he started. He's already, as of Monday, been ruled out for the upcoming week. They are going to take this one slow and steady. If you have an IR spot on your roster, put him in there, pick up somebody else for the next couple weeks because he's done for a significant amount of time, I would guess. You're going to notice the trend of hamstrings popping up everywhere. Dalvin Cook. So this is a guy that looked like he was ready, got some game reps even. But again, this is something they're going to work in slowly. So if you have Dalvin Cook, I'd recommend
I do.
maybe holding on to him on the bench for a little bit longer.
That's what I'm doing right
until,
now.
it's always tough. You want to hit him on the game that he comes back and has a full game. But I think you'll see it in his practice reps. I think you'll see it in the week before. You'll see his reps increase, and he'll slowly take over the backfield again. Until you see that, I would leave him on the bench. I wouldn't risk the re-injury, especially if you have another flex player you can slip in there as a running back.
Got it.
Will Fuller, this is a fella, who didn't have 100 yards or a touchdown, I believe, for the first time all season. He's had the nagging hamstring. That just kind of hints to me, he wasn't 100%. So they're going to sub him out when they can. They got Kiki Kuti or whatever. So he had a great game, and he's benefiting from that.
Cutesy.
2 weeks in a row.
Yeah. So again, anybody with a hamstring, you want to be kind of hesitant with. If you have another option, it's usually a better option in the fantasy world to avoid the players with a hamstring or persistent injury that kind of hangs around. As far as Gronk goes, I have not seen any update on him. I would assume that he's doing better even than he was last week. They were kind of hush up about it.
He's got 10 days off.
He's had 10 days off, a long week. And he still had 10 points last week. So, Andy, I know that's a tough call, but I believe that if Gronk is even, questionable going into a game and you see that he's starting, you got to get him into your lineup because he's just that much better than the other tight end in the league.
Are the Patriots ones to use people as decoys like the Lions used to with Calvin Johnson? Like,
I can't really attest to that. But,
I don't know if
Like-
anyone knows what the
but
Patriots
yeah,
No
but-
one knows.
But
So-
Gronk is such a target.
Yeah.
I don't think he's ever a decoy. I think
No.
Brady will throw him the ball in double coverage and not really think twice.
Yeah.
cool.
He could have 2 broken legs, and he probably still could catch it over anyone in the league. So.
Yeah.
It's bionic,
He
man.
usually does have 2 broken legs.
Yeah.
So.
Moving on, looking at T.Y. Hilton, I think he'll be out another couple weeks. Still not practicing as of Tuesday.
What was his injury?
So he had a rib injury in addition to a hamstring.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
he
Yeah.
had 2.
So he had 2 back-to-back. I think he'll be done for a little while. I'm not sure when their bye is, but he may be out for a couple more weeks, I would think.
Can't imagine having him back without Andrew Luck finally throwing the ball everywhere.
Yeah.
So if
And that's part of the reason why I think Andrew Luck will only continue to get better. Once you get a T.Y. back on the field and healthy, that only opens things up for him. So Chris Carson looks like he's fine. I'm not really sure what was going on with his hip, but it seems to be a non-issue. So does Seattle finally have a running game? I guess that's a question that we might want to
Who
look into in
knows?
the future. O.J. Howard still out 2 to 4 weeks, not practicing yet. I expect Cameron Brate to have a good game this week.
Yes.
Joe Mixon, he's back. They said he was limited. I'm going to go throw up air quotes on limited because
Yeah.
he still had 22 rushes, 93 yards. He had another 3 catches.
It's more than healthy running backs.
22 yards and a touchdown. If that's limited, sign me up. I'm all in. Back on Joe Mixon. Start him up with confidence. Devontae Freeman, he was a little bit limited this weekend, I think, in Atlanta's offense. He looked healthy when he was on the field, but he lost out snaps to both Tevin Coleman and he lost a touchdown carry potential to Ido Smith. So I think he'll get back into things probably even more this weekend. I would start him up with confidence, suggesting that he's probably going to get more of his workload back from where he was. George Kittle got banged up over the weekend. I'm not really sure what his injury was. It seems to be some sort of minor knee injury. He did play through it, so I just look for him to be a game-time decision. He'll probably be fine this week. Check out his practice reps and see what he's doing. A couple of big-time receivers with concussions this week. Brandon Cooks, Cooper Kupp, Geronimo Allison, all coming back from concussion. All of these, just the nature of the injury is going to be a late week, day of decision whether or not they're playing. Definitely start up Robert Woods if either Cooks or Kupp misses time. And you might even consider a Josh Reynolds, who was a young receiver coming off the bench. He got a fair amount of target shares with the two Cooper Kupp and Cooks out. Much to my dismay, the next couple backs are mine. Matt Breida, high ankle sprain. He's going to be out for some time. You know, honestly, this might be a good reset for him. He was banged up with a couple of things before this one. So I do still like him. If you have an IR spot, throw him on there for a couple weeks. Pick up somebody else that you can filter in there. Adrian Peterson, dislocated shoulder. He had an MRI today. It sounds like he's going to be playing through it. As long as he can hold on to the ball, I don't see this affecting him too much as a running back. He may be a little bit more hesitant to lower the boom, but ultimately I think he can play through that and be just fine. Saquon Barkley had some back spasms. I don't know if you saw the play. He jumped into the end zone on one of the last plays of the game, and it just landed funny. I was looking at his ankle, I was looking at his knee, seeing him rolling around on the ground, but apparently it was just some back spasms. Sounds like he hasn't even received treatment for it, so he should be fine moving forward. So hopefully that's the case. Jay Ajayi, we talked a little about earlier, torn ACL. Smallwood and Corey Clement are the options there to pick up. They're going to benefit from that. Kerryon Johnson left the game with an ankle injury. He mentioned personally that he could have come back if he needed to. A lot of the time with just ankle injuries, that's more true than, say, a soft tissue like a hamstring or a groin.
Yeah, and he's on bye, so
he'll have a little extra time to come back from that. He should be fine. And then the last one I have down is Chris Thompson. This is a rib injury. This is usually as tolerated. Whether or not he can play through pain, if he can take contact, that sort of thing. You might see him in some sort of rib protector, set up this weekend if he chooses to suit up.
Sounds painful, bro.
Like always, if you have any questions about any particular players, hit me up on the text. Send me a question you might have, especially the day of, as you find out more information. Just and you want some input.
I need to do that, especially with Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
All right, so thank you, listeners. This is a long one, we noticed, but hopefully the content was worth the wait. All right,
you want us to dive deeper? We would dive deeper.
Deeper means longer podcast. So.
Yawning.
It's like
that's a bad
10
show.
o'clock right now.
Well, just send us out of here.
Send us out, Ryan.
Like and subscribe and comment if you like it. If you don't, whatever. Bye.
No, but if you don't like it, still like it.
Still like us, please. Triple-digit followers.
Shout out to you, Norfolk Christian.
Oh, yeah. Shout out Norfolk Christian students for listening to me. Thanks, guys.
Please stop watching.